Welcome to the Marvelous Moms Club podcast. Discover yourself, break out of mediocrity, and become the mom you've always aspired to be. Here's your host, Kirsten Tyrell.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of the podcast. I'm hanging out with Shara Park, who's basically the coolest girl ever. I got to meet her. Was it only a week ago or has it been 2 weeks now? I lost track of time.
It's been 2 weeks now,
okay.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad I'm not as crazy as I think I am. Anyway, I got to hang out with her at the Wannabe Balanced event. She spoke right after me, and we had so much fun. Like, she's hilarious, and I knew immediately that I had to have her on the podcast. So thank you for being here, Shara. I'm excited to chat with you.
Oh, I'm excited to be here, too. But I got to say, I went after you, and that was hard in itself because you had the whole place cracking up the whole time, and then I had to get up there. So thanks a lot.
Oh, you're welcome. But I didn't expect that. I was like getting up there to be motivational and inspirational, and I feel like everything I said, it was just a really easy crowd. I don't know. Everybody was in the mood to giggle. We had all eaten.
You were inspiring, and you kept it perfectly toned the whole time. We were all happy and laughing. It was great.
Well, the laughter did not stop with me. It was definitely funny as you kept going, which is probably why I was so drawn to you and why I was so excited to be able to grab you and have a one-on-one chat with you for everybody else to hear because I love you. So thank you.
Oh, thanks.
So give everybody a little background. They're like, hey, Kirsten already, tell us who the Shara girl is. Tell us about how many kids you have and what your life looks like in, I don't know, a paragraph.
Oh, geez.
Good luck. A couple paragraphs.
Okay. Thanks. So I am a news anchor in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I've been doing news for about 11 years now. I'm a mom of 2 kids. I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old who turns 4 next week. And last night we spent 2 solid hours with this 3-year-old planning her birthday party. I mean, she is down to like the gift baskets, what she wants in them. It's insane.
Oh, boy.
She is very OCD. Anyway, she's great. She's a tornado. We love her. I've been married for 11 years to my husband, Nick, and we live in Sandy now. We've been in Utah our whole marriage, and we love it here. But prior to that, I was around the country a lot. I grew up in Utah, but I went to Northern Illinois University, so I lived in Illinois for 4 years, then Hawaii for about 8 months, and then eventually came back to Utah.
Nice. We're about to go to Hawaii for the summer.
I
didn't
love
know
it.
You lived there for a little while. Did you go to school or just play?
Yeah, both. So I was in Hilo, Hawaii, and I played at the University of Hawaii, Hilo. And I want to say I went to school, but I really didn't. I was pretty much done with my degree. And so I just had to take 1 or 2 classes and then play volleyball. It was fun.
That's the perfect situation, though.
Yeah.
When you're in Hawaii, to not be like full-time schooling, just playing volleyball and going to the beach.
It was fantastic.
Sounds awesome. My husband went there, too. He went to University of Indiana University for a few years and then ended up at BYU Hawaii, and he loves it. And that's the reason we're able to go back to Hawaii, because he still has connections there and friendships there. So it's nice. It's a really fun experience, and I'm excited to finally have my turn to stay there for more than like a few days at a time.
Good.
Yeah. Okay, so you have 2 kids. You're a full-time employee, not full-time employee, a full-time freaking boss mom. Like you have followed your dream in every sense of the word, and this is the part I think that just gets everybody all kinds of tingly and inspired. And I think it's really cool because I don't feel like we've had a good, strong amount of women who have a job outside of the home. Like we've had moms who do work from home, and we've had moms who are full-time stay-at-home moms, but I really can only think of maybe like 1 or 2. So I'm really excited for you to share your perspective and how you have found like not even a balance, but how you've found like the way to still follow your path while being a mom and like being an amazing mom. So I'm going to let you kind of talk about your background leading up to wanting to be that like working mom.
Wow, no pressure. You just built me up like big time there.
Sorry.
Well, I'll tell you what. So I always knew growing up that I wanted to work. I wanted to be a mom, but I wanted to work. I had this passion. My mom is a working mom and owned a very successful wedding company. Growing up, I worked with her. Then she went into real estate. So I had a really good example of what that was like. And she raised 8 kids doing it. And so I always knew that I wanted to go into journalism. I loved being in front of people and crowds and kind of being the loud one. And I just like to be in the middle of everything. And I wanted to know everything. And so journalism was like the perfect avenue for me. And so I started, I think I told the story at the Wannabe Balanced event that when I was in high school, I ran for class president, and I was class president. And the yearbook staff asked me, they're like, why did you want to be class president? And the only answer I could come up with was, I wanted people to call me President Parker. Like, I wanted that to be my name. So I always knew I wanted to be in the middle of everything. And so I went to school, I pursued a career in journalism, and then I came back to Utah, and I wasn't planning on getting married. I wasn't like right away, but I did meet my husband after I graduated school and came back to Utah, and he was still in school. So that was like the first hurdle. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, I'm going to give you a year to finish school, but then I want to go after my career. And that's what I did. The day he graduated, a week later, I had a job lined up in Southern Utah. Wow. So we moved to Southern Utah. And when I got back to Salt Lake, I came to KSL. And I was so fortunate because KSL picked me up at such a young age. And I always thought maybe I'd make it back here in my career. Mm-hmm. But I pretty much started here. I started kind of with the low man on the totem pole, but then just kind of worked my way up. And I work on the morning show. Mm-hmm. So I'm up at 2:30 a.m. I get home by 1:30 p.m., usually in the afternoon. And the first major hurdle I faced was after that year off was I had a child. So I worked for KSL for 5 years, and then I got pregnant. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, how am I going to do this? When I go home for those 12 weeks, am I going to all of a sudden have this change in me where I just want to stay home with my child? Am I going to forget about this career that I've wanted and I've pursued and I love?
Yeah, that would be a good fear to have.
Yeah, and then I got home, and in those first 12 weeks, I loved every second of it, but I couldn't wait to go back to work. I wanted to.
What a relief.
Yeah, and I kept thinking, is something wrong with me? Like, I don't want to be home all the time. I miss my work. I miss the drive, the deadlines. I missed all of that so much. And so then when I went back to work, all of a sudden I just started to feel like this whole self again. Mm-hmm. I had my work life and the passion at work that I had, and it was my own thing, and I loved it. And then I got to leave that and go home and have this beautiful baby and be a mom. And so my life just kind of started that way with my career as well. So I just tried to figure out, how do I always balance both of these things?
Yeah.
And for me, I always found, like with the morning show, I can still do my full-time work life and then go home in the afternoon and still be my full-time mom. And feel like I satisfy both worlds. Mm-hmm. And one of the things we talked about at the Wannabe Balanced event was how to balance that. Mm-hmm. Because I think sometimes it can get overwhelming. You're spending too much time here or too much time there. And I always felt that if I at least, invested enough time into each thing where I didn't feel like I was off balance, then I could continue that kind of a lifestyle. And so that's what I'd do. If I felt like I was working too much, I'd start saying, no, I can't do that event, or I can't work that extra day, or I can't do this. My family's, needs me right now, and that's more important to me. And if my family life was overwhelming me, sure, I'll work a weekend shift. No problem. So I just try to, I use the bucket analogy. Like, I have these buckets. I have my work bucket. I have my home bucket. I have my church bucket. I have all these different buckets, and I want to make sure that they don't tip over. And I don't know, whoever came up with that analogy was brilliant, because that is my life. Yeah. If there's too much in the work bucket, then I refocus a little bit on my faith bucket and my family bucket. And I just try to make sure each of those is balanced. Mm-hmm. And when they're getting too full, I say, no. Yeah. I can't do this. I can't do that. And I just kind of settle it down a little bit.
I really like that, because I feel like I've had so many guests on here, and we've talked about that balance. And I think it's just because it's a different lifestyle. Like when you work from home and you do have more control over your work, you know what I mean? Like for me, mm-hmm. I can more easily say, okay, I'm doing a little too much. I don't need to start a new business. Like it's not the right time to start a new business.
Maybe not
right now. Or, okay, it's not the right time to have another child, or something like that. And not saying you don't have that control in yours as well, but I've had more people say it's impossible to find balance. But I feel like with what you're doing, you have so much dedication to each thing that it's necessary for you to find that balance. And I love that analogy of the buckets, and I love your awareness of the buckets and being able to know when one is maybe a little bit dried up and maybe when one is overflowing and about to like dump everywhere. So exactly. I think that's a really, really cool way to look at it. And I love that that's really not only specific to being like a working mom, But it seems like it would be more applicable when you are like, you're really in it for the long haul with all of those things. It's not like, well, for a little while, I'm just going to work until we've made enough money and then I'll quit, which I think is what kind of most people do. Well, not most people. What most people I've talked to have done.
A lot of people, yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of moms end up in that scenario where they work because they need to or because that's what they've always known, and then they have this major change in life.
Yes. Yeah. And you're in it because you've known forever that this was the career path that you wanted, that this was something that made you tick and you're passionate about. And I think it's so cool that it's so important to you to make sure that all of those things are happening, because you know that as those pieces come together, they make you the Shara that you are right now. Like, they make you complete and they make you happy.
I am happy.
You seem pretty happy.
Well, one thing I want to talk about, Kirsten, is that at the Wannabe Balanced event, I talked about this a little bit when it comes to pursuing a passion and having a passion. After I had my kids, a lot of people kind of gave me the mom guilt. You're going back to work like so soon? Like, why are you going back to work? Don't you want to be home? Don't you want to raise your kids? Don't you want this? Of course I want all of that, but I also want me. And I know that I can't be the mom I want to be if I'm not like me. Shara Park is not happy. Then I find I'm yelling at my kids, or I'm just irritable, or something's missing, something's off. And so I had to get over that mommy guilt because I was home, I had this baby, and I just wanted to go back to work. And I thought, well, I now have a child. Was my passion supposed to change? And I think there's not enough women out there willing to say, no, it's okay that your passion didn't change. It's okay that you want to go back to work. It's okay that you want to have it all, because you can. I feel like sometimes as moms, I don't know if we mean to, but sometimes we put other moms down like they're doing too much or they're not focused enough on their kids. But I'm out there to say, yes, you can have it all. If you want to work, you'll figure it out. You can do it. And my kids know that I am happy when I go to work. They know that I feel like I'm doing something very important with my life, that at the end of all of this, they can say, look what my mom did. She not only raised us into be hopefully great people, fingers crossed on that one still, but look at all she accomplished on top of that. Like, she had a drive, she had a passion, and I admire her about that, admire that about her. And so I'm hoping that is what my kids say in the future.
They will. And you know what, honestly, I love what you said, and I know that there's definitely like that mom shaming, which I really have tried hard to like not even bring into the equation of Marvelous Moms Club. And it was like a little component of why I even wanted to do something like this. And probably something that happened as a result without me even trying too hard was really like bringing women together from so many different walks of life and it being okay. Instead of the mommy wars, people like accepting that there's other ways to do things. And I've been guilty of it. Like, I grew up with a mom who did not work at all. And I vowed I would not work, that I would just be a full-time mom. And I never expected this. I never expected that I would need something else for myself to be fulfilled and to be happy and to be a good mom to my kids. And I'll admit there's definitely times when we're out of balance where I'm like, I would so much rather be gone for like a week to work than be here right now with you guys. But
and you know
good.
what? That's normal sometimes.
Yeah.
I think almost every mom can admit to that sometimes we just need a break, whether that be to go back to work or to just be by ourselves for a little bit. I think we need to also remember ourselves.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And like, you know, going along with that, what you said is with your kids, like you hope that they look and see you this way. I think that there's such a cultural norm that we think, oh my gosh, if we don't spend all of our time with our kids and we don't put 100% into our kids, they're going to grow up and resent us. They're going to grow up and be on drugs. They're going to blah, 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 because the family's the most important thing. And I think where people get confused with that is, yes, family is the most important thing, but it doesn't mean that it's the only thing that you do. Like, you still have to be a person, and people are part of families, but they're still individuals, and they still have lives, they still have dreams, they still have passion, and you're probably not more likely to ruin your children from following your passion versus being home with them 24/7 and resenting that. You know, like you have to know yourself. And you can't be guilty for that. And honestly, if you see your mom and you admire that she was able to do both, it's no wonder that you're going after the same exact thing. And you know that you weren't damaged by that. I've had moms on here who are like, my mom ran businesses and she would put, my friend Amanda was on here, we would watch Little Mermaid like 7 times a day. And I don't resent my mom for that. I'm like, that's awesome. I got to watch Little Mermaid on repeat, you know? So
Yeah.
I think
Well, and my mother taught me, like when I would watch her work and have interactions with her clients, taught me how to speak to other people, how to show respect to other people in the business world, and showed me that other side of being a woman, that being a strong, independent woman with an opinion, with a sense of business, with a sense of direction, you know, like she taught me those things. And I watched her doing that as a child. Like I'm sure I would have learned those other places as well, but I had that directly in front of me.
Yeah.
And so that was a huge, huge help for me in the sense of knowing that I could also be that kind of a strong woman. One thing I do want to also mention though is it wasn't until I had a child that I realized either how hard the stay-at-home moms work. I know I cannot do that full time.
Yeah.
I can't. I love my children dearly. They are my world. I love them, but I could not spend every day with them. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like that's fine. I recognize that. I recognize that I can have this career that I've always wanted, this passion, and then I can come home and I can appreciate them and I can be in it with them when I am home.
Yeah.
So hats off, honestly, though, to all the stay-at-home moms who do decide to stay home, because that's a job I can't do full time.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's totally, like I said, like knowing yourself and knowing what you need to be, you know, a totally fulfilled person to where you're happy, because it's not doing anybody any good. And I know I already said this, to just be at home all the time for the sake of your kids, all the while resenting your kids because you can't do anything else with your life. And that's not to say, like, even if that is what you're devoted to, you're allowed to have those bad days where you resent your kids and you're like, oh, but I wish I still had a life, you know? But yeah, and I love.
And that's why we have the reset button every day.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that awesome?
I go to bed at night so many times praying, please let me be a better mom tomorrow. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think if you don't, then, you know, we're all just trying. We're trying our best. But there are many nights that I go to bed and say, please help me to not yell so much tomorrow. Please help me to be more, have more empathy for my child tomorrow. Like, that's why we have the reset button.
I love the reset button. I'm really glad you called attention to the reset button, because I've never really visualized it that way, but we totally do. We like punch our time clock of motherhood, say a little prayer that we can do better, and we hit the button and we wake up. And have you seen that meme? Like, I wake up every morning as Mary Poppins, and then I go to bed as Cruella de Vil or something like that.
I'm sure there are many days my kids see that in me.
For sure, because we take on a lot. But I wanted to backtrack too to you talking about like you watching your mom and learning these qualities to becoming a strong woman. And I think what's cool is like, if you're not shameful of the life that you have and you're very proud of like the woman that you are and the work that you're doing, you're also still passing that down to your daughter and even to your son. You know, like you're showing them what a strong working woman looks like. And why wouldn't you want to mold that for them if you know that it's made you so powerful? You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to raise children who are opposite of you. You're trying, and it's not that you're trying to force them to be mini yous, but you're teaching them the very same values that you hold dear. So it's really cool. You're just perpetuating down a total lifestyle and a cycle, and it's awesome because it makes you happy. So there's nothing wrong with continuing down the line, you know?
Well, when we, growing up watching my mom work, and you know, I didn't know if that was going to be my passion. And later on, I knew it wasn't my passion, but it still instilled those qualities of a working, strong woman in me, regardless of what career path I chose. You know, I always talk about the fact that we have our kids involved in lots of different things. As moms and dads, we put them in soccer. Like just this weekend, I had my son on a soccer team, my daughter on a soccer team. Then we had baseball practice. And, you know, we put them in the different things for them to figure out what their passion is. And we're cheering them on along the way until they figure out what it is. And I always come back to the fact that wouldn't our kids want us to have that? You know, we're constantly driving them and pushing them and wanting them to be the best they can be. But if we as parents, as moms, aren't doing that for ourselves, then what are we teaching them?
Right. Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Yeah, you nailed it. And I want you to kind of even go into this more, because you talked about this at the Wannabe Balanced event. Like, this is, we have a lot of moms listening in, but I know that I have non-mom listeners who tune in every once in a while. So even for all of them, you talked a little bit about how hard it's been to rise in your career as a woman and what that challenge has been like for you. And I want you to talk about that a little bit, because I want women to know that if this is like, I feel like still most businesses are very male dominant, and you have to work a little bit harder. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, for me, early on, and it's not just a woman, but I think it's a mother in journalism. It is really hard to be a mother in this industry. It's very fast paced. There's a lot of deadlines. It's very judgmental. Early on, I was dating this guy, and I remember I was really into him. He was so cute. I just thought, oh, maybe this is the guy. And I was home from college, and he asked me, what do you want to be, post college? What are you going after? And I said, oh, I want to be a reporter. I want to be a television reporter. And he kind of just listened for a second, and I thought, okay, so this is good. And then he said, okay, so what's your backup plan? And I said, my backup plan? He said, well, because it's a really competitive field, and what if you don't make it? Yeah. He got dumped like then and there. I looked at him like, you gotta be kidding me. No, this is not gonna happen. But you find people like that all along the way. And, whenever I do a story, we have these comment boards, and people are so negative, and they want to tear you down. And even just, for example, a couple weeks ago, I had this video that went viral. 20 million views. It was It's crazy. It blew up. It was this little bear. Some people may have seen it. I was holding this little baby bear on our set here on KSL, and it started purring.
Oh,
and
I saw that.
Yeah, so it kind of blew up, and all I could focus on, there were like 400,000 comments, and there were two women who on there, all they could talk about were my eyebrows and how ugly my eyebrows were.
What?
And I know, and I was like, wait a minute, I just got them waxed. They look amazing.
Oh my
gosh. The whole time. But people are going to find the negative in everything. That was a simple video of a sweet little moment, and people find the negative.
Yeah.
And so it's always trying to rise above that and be better than that. And I learned a lesson very early on in my career. There was another journalist who came to KSL as this girl, and she was in all sense of the idea opposite of me. Dark hair. Used to be this skinny little dancer. Like, she's super cute, adorable. And I'm like this blonde built mom, like,
yeah.
And she came into KSL blazing, gonna make a name for herself. And I just found myself starting to tear her down. And I couldn't figure out, like, it just bugged me, and she just got under my skin. And finally one day she called me aside and said, hey, can I take you to lunch? And I thought, uh-oh. Okay, what is this about? And she took me to lunch, and she sat me down, and our families had history because she and my husband went to high school together. And she said, hey, I just want to know, like, what's up with this? I thought if I came to KSL, you and I would be friends. We'd be there to cheer each other on. Like, what's going on? Why? I hear a lot of negative stuff. And it was a really hard pill to swallow, because in that moment, face to face, she's asking me, woman to woman, what is wrong here? Why do you have an issue with me? And I didn't have a single good reason. And I realized it was because I was jealous. And in that moment, I decided, and I told her, I will, from this moment on, I will stop, and I will be a cheerleader. And I apologize that I would let that jealousy get to me. And now looking at it, this was a mom wanting to do the same thing I'm doing. She had the same passion I had. And why would I not be cheering her on the entire way? Because that's what I would want. I want somebody cheering me on.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those moments in my career I realized I need to be a cheerleader for other women in this industry who are mothers and trying to make a name for themselves and trying to be a mom at the same time. And it's a hard career to do that. And so she and I to this day are good friends now. And I kind of laugh at the fact that, I'm probably talking about her and she has no idea, but I'll have to tell her.
But like, oh, wait, this is being recorded.
By the way, you know what I mean? It was one of those moments I realized I need to not be one of those people, and I need to cheer on other mothers and other journalists and help them along the way, because I would want somebody to do that for me. So in this business, that's what it's like. There's a lot of there's a lot of jealousy. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of, critiques. I remember at the Wannabe Balanced event, I told you about the consultants who came in and like stripped me down, put me in Spanx. By the way, you could have your own full show on Spanx. Those are ridiculous. Wow. And dress after dress threw it on me, knowing nothing looked good, and just made me feel so small and made me feel like I wasn't good enough. And then I stepped out of the room with these consultants, and I remembered I am so much more than that. I'm so much more than what they're seeing on the outside. So that's kind of what it's like. There's a lot of good things that happen in journalism. There's so many great stories to tell, so many incredible people to meet, but you've got to have some thick skin, and you've got to know when to kind of swallow that pill and be an advocate of others.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you touched on a really important point, too, that it doesn't even matter what field you're in, if you're working or not. It's sad how instinctive it is sometimes for us to want to tear other people down or judge them fiercely because we feel like if they're succeeding, then it takes some of our success away. Or if they're happier, if they're skinnier, or they're this or that, like they're like taking our sunshine, and that's not true. Like there's so much success and happiness and everything available to all of us that bringing somebody else down doesn't give us more. It actually takes some of ours away. So I love that even if it's not, even if people aren't in journalism, we all know that mom who lives in the neighborhood and we're like, man, no, I'm not top dog anymore. Like, no, I'm not the skinniest, or no, I'm not the prettiest, or I don't have the most kids. Like whatever we like identify as, when somebody comes in and they take those identifying traits away from us, it's really easy to be like, oh my gosh, I'm uncomfortable right now. But I love that.
And one thing I want to point out too is, one thing I learned from the Wannabe Balanced event was, I'm not sure who said it, but there is enough space in this world for all of us. That really stood with me. Yeah. And I thought about that over the last couple of weeks. Like there is enough space in this world for each of us to have our own unique voice, to have our own unique ideas. And I kept thinking, yes, that is so true. Just because I was being super competitive with another mom in my field who, honestly, she was just like me trying to accomplish what I wanted. She had her own voice. I have my own voice. It makes us very different and very unique. So why not help each other along? Because the bottom line is there is enough space for all of us to have that.
Yeah. Amen, sister.
Thanks. I'm learning. It's a process.
Oh, it's such a process. And we can sit here and have this conversation, and tomorrow we could be faced with that scenario and be like, oh my gosh, what did we talk about yesterday? Put on my strong armor, put on my happy face, and be a good person. It's so hard.
It is. And you know what? And we're all trying every day, and we're all learning and growing. Me today, I am not the same person I was 5 years ago.
I would hope not.
Yeah, and I think that's the point, is we all grow and we all get to a point where we have better understanding. And I think that's where it comes on each of us to make sure that we share that understanding. Yeah. That I now realize there is enough space in this industry for me to cheer on another female, another mom out there trying to do what I do and have the passion that I have. There's enough space for all of us to do that.
Yeah, and you're going to perpetuate that down to new women who kind of come into the industry, or new moms, or whoever it may be. Like, you having that understanding just helps other people grow, and it helps provide that like positive way to communicate and be a woman in any situation. So I really, really love that. Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
You're so amazing. I'm so happy that you've been on here to share pieces of your story and pieces of your heart. And I'm going to ask you this. I tried to ask you this in the questionnaire, and you're like, well, let your listeners decide. Everybody has to answer this unless I forget to ask it. What makes you a marvelous mom?
Oh, my. And what did I say in the questionnaire?
You're like, I just really try hard, and we'll let your listeners decide.
Oh, what makes me a marvelous mom? Honestly, it really does come down to the fact that I am trying. I know I don't want that to sound like a cop-out, but I am trying. I am on a daily basis trying to raise two good children who will contribute to this world. I'm trying to be a journalist that people, when they watch, they trust, and they know that my heart is in it, and I'm telling them something that is worthy for them to hear. And in my faith, I'm growing every day, trying to understand what it is I believe in and what it is that I truly have faith in. And so I think for me, the thing that defines me is I am constantly trying. And I think that's the most anybody can ask for.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like coming back to that reset button. Like you're willing to hit it every single day and work a little bit harder to be a little bit better. So I love that. And that's not a cop out. I just wanted to hear you say it.
I was like, I don't know.
No, I like making people say it out loud because it really reminds you that you really are doing so much better than you think, because it's so much easier for us to have that negative dialogue about ourselves in our head, or monologue, I guess, versus, forcing us to say good things about ourselves. It makes such a difference in our self-esteem and in our, everything. So thank you for saying that. I love your answer. I love that you've been here, and I would love to have you back on. And I hope everybody's enjoyed listening to you as much as I have. So thank you, Shara.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right, ladies, have a marvelous day, and we will see you on the next episode. As a busy mom who's also running multiple businesses, it's kind of hard for me sometimes to get healthy dinner on the table that my kids will actually eat, which is why I'm obsessed with HelloFresh. HelloFresh is going to help you get inspired again and again, be unstoppable, and eat deliciously with your family. They shop, plan, and deliver your food to your door. They give you step-by-step recipes and ingredients so you can just relax and enjoy all there is to love about cooking. And of course, eating. I know you'll love it as much as I do, so I'm offering you an amazing code. I'm not an affiliate, but this is just the best way to get it for the best price. Use code KIRTYRR to get $40 off your first HelloFresh box. This is an amazing, amazing deal, and I promise you will thank me later when you taste the food for the first time. So again, go check it out, HelloFresh.com, and use activation code KIRTYRR to get started today.